Red Hat Enterprise Linux is a Linux distribution developed by Red Hat and targeted toward the commercial market. Red Hat Enterprise Linux is released in server versions for x86, x86-64, Itanium, PowerPC and IBM System Z, and desktop versions for x86 and x86-64. All of Red Hat's official support and training and the Red Hat certification program centers around the Red Hat Enterprise Linux platform. Red Hat Enterprise Linux is often abbreviated to RHEL, although this is not an official designation. The first version of Red Hat Enterprise Linux to bear the name originally came onto the market as Red Hat Linux Advanced Server. In 2003 Red Hat rebranded Red Hat Linux Advanced Server to Red Hat Enterprise Linux AS, and added two more variants, Red Hat Enterprise Linux ES and Red Hat Enterprise Linux WS. Red Hat uses strict trademark rules to restrict free redistribution of their officially supported versions of Red Hat Enterprise Linux, but still freely provides its source code. Third-party derivatives can be built and redistributed by stripping away non-free components like Red Hat's trademarks, including community-supported distributions like CentOS and Scientific Linux, and commercial forks like Oracle Linux, which aim to offer 100% binary compatibility with Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Variants: there are also academic editions of the desktop and server variants. They are offered to schools and students, are less expensive, and are provided with Red Hat technical support as an optional extra. Web support based on number of customer contacts can be purchased separately. It is often assumed the branding ES, AS, and WS stand for entry-level server, advanced server, and workstation, respectively. The reason for this is that the ES product is indeed the company's base enterprise server product, while AS is the more advanced product. However, nowhere on its site or in its literature does Red Hat say what AS, ES and WS stand for. In Red Hat Enterprise Linux 5 there are new additions that substitute former Red Hat Enterprise Linux AS/WS Desktop, Red Hat Enterprise Linux Advanced Platform, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, Red Hat Enterprise Linux Desktop with Workstation and Multi-OS option, Red Hat Enterprise Linux Desktop with Workstation option, Red Hat Enterprise Linux Desktop with Multi-OS option, Red Hat Enterprise Linux Desktop. Red Hat had also announced its Red Hat Global Desktop Linux Edition for emerging markets. RHEL 4, 3, and prior releases had four variants: Red Hat Enterprise Linux AS for mission-critical enterprise computer systems, Red Hat Enterprise Linux ES for supported network servers, Red Hat Enterprise Linux WS for technical power user enterprise desktops for high-performance computing, Red Hat Desktop for multiple deployments of single-user desktops for enterprises. Relationships: originally, Red Hat sold support for versions of Red Hat Linux starting with RHEL 2.1 AS in 2002. Red Hat sold their first version of RHEL. It was based on Red Hat Linux, but used a much more conservative release cycle. Later versions included technologies from the Red Hat Euro-sponsored Fedora Community Distribution Project. Red Hat Enterprise Linux release schedules do not follow that of Fedora but are more conservative. Fedora serves as upstream for future versions of RHEL. RHEL trees are forked off the Fedora repository, and released after a substantial stabilization and quality assurance effort. For example, RHEL 6 was forked from Fedora at the end of 2009 and released more or less together with Fedora 14. By the time RHEL 6 was released, many features from Fedora 13 and 14 had already been backported into it. The Fedora project lists the following lineages for older Red Hat Enterprise releases: Red Hat Linux 6.2/7, a Red Hat Linux Enterprise Edition 6.2e, Red Hat Linux 7.2, a Red Hat Enterprise Linux 2.1, Red Hat Linux 10 Beta 1, a Red Hat Enterprise Linux 3, Fedora Core 3, a Red Hat Enterprise Linux 4, Fedora Core 6, a Red Hat Enterprise Linux 5, Fedora 12, 13, a Red Hat Enterprise Linux 6, Fedora 19, a Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7. Note about Fedora Core 1 and Red Hat Enterprise Linux 3. Red Hat released Red Hat Linux 10 Beta 1, then took two forks from that code base to seed both Fedora Core 1 and Red Hat Enterprise Linux 3 beta releases. There was some cross-pollination between the two up until shortly before the first production RHEL 3 release. Therefore, both FC1 and RHEL 3 came from a common fork of RHEL 10 Beta 1. In addition, the Fedora problem includes extra packages for Enterprise Linux, a community-provided set of packages for RHEL going beyond the ones that Red Hat selected for inclusion in its supported distribution. Both Fedora and Red Hat Enterprise Linux are open source. Fedora is a free distribution and community project and upstream for Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Fedora is a general-purpose system that gives Red Hat and the rest of its contributor community the chance to innovate rapidly with new technologies. Red Hat Enterprise Linux is a commercial enterprise operating system and has its own set of test phases including alpha and beta releases which are separate and distinct from Fedora development rebuilds. Originally, Red Hat's enterprise product, then known as Red Hat Linux, was made freely available to anybody who wished to download it, while Red Hat made money from support. Red Hat then moved towards splitting its product line into Red Hat Enterprise Linux, which was designed to be stable and with long-term support for enterprise users, and Fedora as the community distribution and project sponsored by Red Hat. The use of trademarks prevents verbatim copying of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Since Red Hat Enterprise Linux is based completely on free and open source software, Red Hat makes available the complete source code to its enterprise distribution through its FTP site to anybody who wants it. Accordingly, several groups have taken this source code and compiled their own versions of Red Hat Enterprise Linux, typically with the only changes being the removal of any references to Red Hat's trademarks and pointing the update systems to non-Red Hat servers. Groups which have undertaken this include CentOS, Oracle Linux, Scientific Linux, Whitebox Enterprise Linux, Startcom Enterprise Linux, PyBox Enterprise Linux, XOS, Linux, and Bulls XBAS for high-performance computing. All provide a free mechanism for applying updates without paying a service fee to the distributor. Rebuilds of Red Hat Enterprise Linux are free but do not get any commercial support or consulting services from Red Hat and lack any software, hardware or security certifications. Also, the rebuilds do not get access to Red Hat services like Red Hat Network. Unusually, Red Hat took steps to obfuscate their changes to the Linux kernel for 6.0 by not publicly providing the patch files for their changes in the source tarball, and only releasing the finished product in source form. Speculation suggested that the move was made to affect Oracle's competing rebuild and support services, which further modifies the distribution. This practice, however, still complies with the GNU GPL since source code is defined as the preferred form of the work for making modifications to it, and the distribution still complies with this definition. Red Hat CTO Brian Stevens later confirmed the change, stating that certain information would now only be provided to paying customers to make the Red Hat product more competitive against the growing number of companies offering support for products based on RHEL. CentOS developers had no objections to the change since they do not make any changes to the kernel beyond what is provided by Red Hat. Commercial products. A number of commercial vendors use Red Hat Enterprise Linux as a base for the operating system in their products. Two of the best known are the console operating system and VMware RESX Server and Oracle Linux Raspbian. Version history. RHEL 2.1. Red Hat Enterprise Linux 2.1 AS, March 26, 2002. Uses Linux 2.4.9 E3 Update 1, February 14, 2003, Update 2, May 29, 2003, Update 3, December 19, 2003, Update 4, April 21, 2004, Update 5, August 18, 2004, Update 6, December 13, 2004, Update 7, April 28, 2005. Red Hat Enterprise Linux 2.1 ES, May 2003, RHEL 3, Red Hat Enterprise Linux 3, October 22, 2003. Uses Linux 2.4.21-4 Update 1, January 16, 2004. Update 2, May 12, 2004. Update 3, September 3, 2004. Update 4, December 12, 2004. Update 5, May 18, 2005. Update 6, September 28, 2005. Update 7, March 17, 2006. Update 8, July 20, 2006. Update 9, June 15, 2007. RHEL 4, Red Hat Enterprise Linux 4, February 15, 2005. Uses Linux kernel 2.6.9-54.1, also termed Update 1, June 8, 2005, 4.2, also termed Update 2, October 5, 2005, 4.3, also termed Update 3, March 12, 2006, 4.4, also termed Update 4, August 10, 2006, 4.5, also termed Update 5, May 1, 2007, 4.6, also termed Update 6, November 15, 2007, 4.7, also termed Update 7, July 29, 2008, 4.8, also termed Update 8, May 19, 2009, 4.9, also termed Update 9, February 16, 2011. RHEL 5, Red Hat Enterprise Linux 5, March 14, 2007. Uses Linux kernel February 6, 18 to 85.1, also termed Update 1, November 7, 2007, 5.2, also termed Update 2, May 21, 2008, 5.3, also termed Update 3, January 20, 2009, 5.4, also termed Update 4, September 2, 2009, 5.5, also termed Update 5, March 30, 2010, 5.6, also termed Update 6, January 13, 2011, 5.7, also termed Update 7, July 21, 2011, 5.8, also termed Update 8. February 20, 2012, 5.9, also termed Update 9, January 7, 2013, 5.10, also termed Update 10, October 1, 2013. RHEL 6, Red Hat Enterprise Linux 6 was forked from Fedora 12 and contains many backported features from Fedora 13 and 14. Red Hat Enterprise Linux 6, November 10, 2010 uses Linux kernel February 6, 32 to 7.16.1, also termed Update 1, May 19, 2011, 6.2, also termed Update 2, December 6, 2011, 6.3, also termed Update 3, June 20, 2012, 6.4, also termed Update 4, February 21, 2013, 6.5, also termed Update 5, November 21, 2013. RHEL 7, Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7 is based on Fedora 19 and upstream Linux kernel 3.10. The first beta was announced on December 11, 2013, and a release candidate was made available on April 15, 2014. On June 10, 2014 Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7 was officially released. Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7.0, June 10, 2014 uses Linux kernel 3.10.0-123. Product lifecycle. The lifecycle of Red Hat Enterprise Linux is 10 years for versions 3 and 4, while it spans 13 years for more recent versions 5, 6 and 7. The lifecycle comprises several phases of varying length with varying degrees of support. During the first phase, Red Hat provides full support and updates software and hardware drivers. In later phases only security fixes are provided and support for new hardware is gradually reduced. In the last 3 years of the life cycle, critical and security-related fixes are only provided to customers who pay an additional subscription, which is available for RHEL 3/4 only and covers a limited number of packages. References. Further reading, Zhang, Michael H. RHCE Red Hat Certified Engineer Linux Study Guide. New York, McGraw-Hill. ISBN A977-07-226454-8. Ori, ASGHAR. Red Hat Certified Technician and Engineer. Reston, Global Village Publishing. ISBN A978-1-61584-430-2. Fox, Tammy. Red Hat Enterprise Linux 5 Administration Unleashed. Indianapolis, Indiana SAMS. ISBN A978-0-672-32892-3. OCLCA 137291425. McCarty, Bill. Learning Red Hat Enterprise Linux and Fedora. Sebastopol, California, O'Reilly. ISBN A978-0-596-00589-4. OCLCA 55130915. Negus, Christopher. Fedora 9 and Red Hat Enterprise Linux Bible. Indianapolis, Indiana Wiley. ISBN A978-0-470-37362-0. OCLCA 222155845. Sobel, Mark G. Practical Guide to Fedora and Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Upper Saddle River, New Jersey, Prentice Hall. ISBN A978-0-13-714295-8. OCLCA 216616647. Collings, Terry. Red Hat Enterprise Linux 4 for Dummies. Hoboken, New Jersey Wiley. ISBN A978-0-7645-7713-0. OCLCA 58973830. Peterson, Richard. Red Hat Enterprise Linux and Fedora Core 4, The Complete Reference. London, McGraw-Hill. ISBN A978-0-07-226154-7. OCLCA 62293551. External links, official website, Brian Stevens, CTO and Vice President of Engineering, Red Hat. On why Red Hat Enterprise Linux is the business OS for flexibility and value, Red Hat Enterprise Linux at DistroWatch.